So I'm going to do a little video on what I've seen in 1 week working on RVs. Um, I suspect most of this is DIY stuff. And you can see here this white wire is melted. So most people assume that when they see a black and white wire, that the black wire is negative. 12 volt or low voltage doesn't have a color code, especially when you get inside of an appliance. The color code could be completely different. But on an RV, almost always white wire is negative. So they have it hooked to the negative post now. The jack's working now, but they never repaired the wire. So it's just sitting there with all the smoke let out of it. So if you're trying to do stuff like this, look at the instructions. There's almost always instructions online. Find someone that knows what they're doing, or take it to a qualified technician. That's probably the best thing. I hate wing nuts also. Nobody ever tightens them. They put them on hand tight. They come loose, and then they say, my heater doesn't work, my refrigerator doesn't work. And the first thing I always check is the battery. I always use a nut, but don't put the nut in between wires. That's not good either. Then he's saying that the furnace wouldn't stay lit. And as soon as I open the door, there's all these wires hanging. So obviously that black wire is probably has something to do with that, which it did. After I did some diagging, that black wire is supposed to be behind this gas valve. It's part of the flame sense circuit. So the board doesn't know that the flame is there and it keeps turning it off. So I got my little gooseneck camera out and you can kind of see where it's supposed to be right there. So I knew it had come from there. So I took that apart and reinstalled it, and then the furnace started working. Another thing I don't like to see is Teflon tape on flared fittings. They also make what's an inverted flare. You usually see those on the gas valves at the front. So this is a picture from a job I did a while back, and you could see the Teflon tape is covering the hole. I've actually seen this hole completely covered in Teflon tape. But when the Teflon tape goes across the flared portion, it doesn't allow those two pieces of metal to seat well, and it can cause a leak right there. So stay away from the Teflon tape on flared fittings. I've seen lots of videos lately where YouTubers are saying, make sure you use some soapy water to check for leaks. Don't use soapy water. Use Mr. Bubble, but I only recommend using something that says it's for gas leak detection. So you know that it's elastic enough that it's not going to blow through your soapy water. You're going to make some big bubbles and actually see if you have a leak or not. Double male plug. I see somebody with a double male plug, I run far away. Who knows what else they've done, but never make a double male plug. That's crazy. It's very dangerous. So this unit had, I didn't take all the pictures of all the very bad wiring that was done here, just a few. But you can see there's a receptacle below it, and they just connected into the back of the shore power with no circuit protection and no GFCI. Once again, take it to a qualified technician. Also, the electric side of the refrigerator, look at how discolored these connectors are. I suspect that there's probably a lot of low voltage going on. And I don't even know what to say about this. Hopefully they're not using it. This type of plug here, I see these all the time. They're always discolored and then gotten hot. If you're using these, make sure you inspect them pretty often, because I have seen these wires come loose or come all the way off. Really, you should just be replacing the whole shore cord. So both sides of this is hot, and I find that kind of unusual also. probably was using a 50 amp adapter, so a 10 gauge wire is not going to trip a 50 amp circuit breaker very well. They're just going to get hot. Solar panels. The RV solar panel is usually around a 20 volt panel. That's what I call them. And then a household's 30 volt panel. That's just, in my mind, how I determine the difference. So you can see here, this is definitely not an RV panel. They plugged it direct into the coach, into the batteries. Boiled the batteries out, fried the converter. So they got a new converter and a new battery, and it was hooked up backwards, reverse polarity on top of all that. So you have to have a solar controller in between a solar panel and a battery. No ifs, ands, or buts. You have to do it. People ask, can my alternator charge my battery? I never say yes. I say it'll put voltage to the battery. So you can see it had 11 volts on it. We start up the engine. When the alternator kicks in, yes, the voltage does go up. But this is completely dead battery. If you're going to drive for 2 hours, I doubt that's enough time to recharge a wet cell lead acid battery. They usually need a lot longer than that to charge all the way back up. So he also thought that there wasn't an isolator installed. So he installed an isolator and he thought it still wasn't working. But you can tell just by measuring the voltage on the two batteries. If they're connected, they're going to equal out and you're going to get the same voltage on both batteries. So we're getting different voltages on these two batteries. They hadn't sat very long, but I'm sure that the isolator was working correctly. So that's just 1 week of work on RVs, of all DIY things that you need to be really aware of. It's kind of scary, actually. So if you don't know what you're doing, please don't do it. Hire somebody qualified. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.